are back, and we're moving into our second conversation for today. And this is one I know that some people may think seems a bit far-fetched. Financially, it's not just the country that took the blow. Every single person is finding themselves trying to manage, some with no pay, some with less pay, and some with their streams of income completely evaporated. So talking about money management is even more important now. So we called on our expert, Corrine Fuller, who is from the Belize Credit Union League, to just talk us through this time, some tips, some advice on how we can and should manage. Good morning, Corrine.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be here, even though the circumstances are kind of challenging, right?
Yes.
We were discussing before how this has been what we've been talking about over the years, and the emergency is here. And you're right, it is affecting everybody in one way or the other. And it is a true emergency. Who knew in December, when we were talking about planning for Christmas, that we would be in this situation just a couple months down the road. So it is here, and we have to try and deal with it. So one of the first things I would say is to generally for everybody, no matter, and we'll talk about the different categories really of where we stand. Everybody, it's important for us to try to stay healthy. I think that's a very important thing. And you know what you need to do to be healthy. If you are taking medication, you need to make sure that you have your medication to take it. Try to eat as healthy as possible. Follow instructions from the health authorities and also the other authorities. So those are some basic things that everybody needs to pay attention to.
Absolutely. And you know, in our previous conversation, I think the mention was made about looking at where people are financially in some of these measures. And I know that when we think of things like masks and we want to buy the surgical masks, they're so expensive. They're $2 each. And if you use masks properly, they should be changed several times a day. So nobody can afford that. So it really is a lot more feasible to make your own or to just use what you have.
What you have. And that goes across many avenues right now that because we're in this situation.
So Corrine, let's just talk about where people are right now. You said there are categories as to where people are. Can you get into that for us?
Sure. So you have some people who have lost their jobs. They have no further income to get. They have lost their jobs because of this pandemic. Some people also have lost the opportunity to catch and kill. You know, we have a lot of Belizeans who have to go out each day to get money, do a little thing here or there to get money to put food on the table. So for the most part, those people have lost the opportunity to do that. Then you have some people who are working, but they're on reduced pay. You have some people who are working from home, and that has its own challenges with it's likely that your expenses are some expenses would go up, but then some would come down as well. You have people who are working as essential service providers. They have to be out there, and they're on the front line, and they're taking a bit more risk than the rest of us. And and of course you have some people who are probably getting their full pay too. Where nothing much has changed as yet, because as you know, we don't know, it is so uncertain. Even if you have a job now with full pay, you're not certain that this is going to be your reality for the next 12, 24 months or so. So it's like we're almost all in the same kind of basket kind of way. We're all affected in some way or the other. We're all affected.
So how do you manage money under these circumstances? I mean, it's even more important, but where do you start? So you said take care of your health first, which I'm assuming you mean whatever money you get, buy those essentials, like your medication or whatever.
Yes, that's a part of it. One of the first steps, though, is to include the whole family. When I was going through what we were going to talk about today, I was saying to myself, this is what we've been saying.
Yeah.
You know, nothing much has changed really, even though a lot has changed.
Yeah.
Include the whole family in the discussion so that everybody's a part of the process, and the sacrifices that will have to be made, everybody could participate in them.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you could do, and this goes across, some might be relevant to some people that we spoke about earlier, some might not be, but I'm hoping that we could, get something from what we're discussing today.
Yeah.
First thing, get information about the government assistance from reliable sources.
Yeah.
Make sure that you know what you qualify for. Apply for everything that you qualify for. Have patience. Be persistent. We've heard about many people who feel that they weren't attended to.
Yeah.
But then I do know that eventually a lot of people do get attended to. So try to be as persistent as possible and patient. There's also, it's not only government who is providing assistance. They have many other community groups that are providing assistance to people who are in need. You have NGOs, you have individual citizens, you have other organizations and so on. So, you have to be resourceful. Look around in your community to see what is happening, what help is being provided, and see if you could benefit from that.
Now,
all right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that important is for everyone to create an emergency budget. So it doesn't matter if you're working on reduced pay or if you have your full salary.
Okay.
We're in serious times, right? Everybody recognizes that, I think. And so if you are still working and you're still getting your pay, you should really seriously think about putting aside that emergency fund that we've been talking about all along. The one, if you're able to do so. So
there's extra after you've taken care of the basic needs. Put it aside because you don't know how long. Or I mean, there are even things like the threat of loss of your job, of losing your job, or even the threat of losing more of your salary if you're already on reduced salary.
Exactly.
So we should all be downsizing.
We should all be downsizing, Marlene.
Let me ask a question here, Corrine.
Sure.
Let me ask a quick question based on what I think is a practical scenario that many people find themselves in at the moment. You have those of us who are either on reduced salary, those of us who are without a job, and we're forced to remain at home given the state of emergency and what we're all experiencing. But when you have the entire family at home, the likelihood of certain utilities going up is is more than likely your water bill, your electricity bill is going to go up. But then you're not making the kind of money that would have allowed you to be able to defray all of these monthly expenses. How do you now find yourself budgeting what you have versus the use of certain utilities and reinforcing that in the kids or in other adults around the house that they need to be able to, minimize their use of fans when they're not in the room, turn off the television, or, you can't be filling a pool of water every Saturday, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, things like that. Okay, so let's talk about an emergency budget then.
Okay.
So, you need to create an emergency budget, and it will be based on your situation, on a lower income. So again, it is whether you are really making a lower income, and also if you're making your same income, again, the uncertainty is there. So make an emergency budget and base it on lower income. So you're going to focus on what are the most important expenses. So you know that you have to pay food. Food is important.
Yes.
For some people, you might have to add medication in there. Be prepared to sacrifice. So while you're putting together this budget, you have to realize that we have to sacrifice. And you will need to eliminate any expense that's not essential, And of course, you will want to look on each category of the expenses and see how you can cut back. Again, the big word before this pandemic, and even especially now, we always say it is important to sacrifice so that you could go for the long haul, you know?
Yeah.
So let's look on, let's start with food then.
Okay.
What are some sacrifices you can make with respect to the food that you're going to buy during this time? Again, we recognize that for some people, for many people, it's going to be extremely difficult. Some people probably don't even have a budget to buy food, so they really have to depend on the social services, right? But let's talk about those who have money.
There's a lot that you can cut back with your grocery bill.
Yes.
And sometimes it's looking for cheaper options, but also doing without some things.
Doing without, for example, if you have $1, you could either buy a pack of chips or buy between 7 and 10 banana. Yeah. So you make the choice. Which one is better? You could buy between 7 and 10 oranges. You know, you could buy 1 apple. So what are you going to choose if you have with your dollar?
Yeah.
You have a family that you have to take care of. You have children who are at home. They're no longer at school getting on the school feeding program. So you have to make wise choices.
Yeah.
The same story we've been saying, don't waste. You know, don't let things spoil. Use what you have. Maybe you have some canned stuff from last year that you had for the hurricane or whatever, you know, in your hurricane basket of goods. Maybe it's time to pull those things out and make sure they're not spoiled too, so that you don't get sick.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you have things in your freezer that you've put there. You know, you really have to be resourceful. You could think, you know, as Belizeans, we like to eat beans and meat. You know, we just fill it up. You could eat beans alone. You don't have, it's a source of protein.
It's a complete meal.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, things like that you could look at with respect to food.
Yeah. So think of cheaper options. Think of better options. What can you get more of rather than less of? So
that's right.
Junk food especially can add up, and if you have kids at home. But you can make some of the stuff too. I mean,
you could make stuff. Yes.
If you buy the tortilla instead.
Yes, you could make stuff. If you know what the cost is for, say, a loaf of bread, how much is that going to cost you? Versus if I make something, it might last longer. You know, you have to look on nutritional value as well. But these are some of the choices that you have to, and decisions that you have to make in order to make that food bill run as long as possible.
Okay. Well, one thing we know that a lot of people are doing is cooking for themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a positive. That's one way to reduce costs that you have talked about for as long as we've known you.
Yes, exactly. And try to you know, not have things spoil.
Yeah.
Use what you have. Don't let things spoil. Then we were talking about utilities now.
Yeah.
That is the one. So children are at home. More people are in the house, so naturally. And not only that, it is hotter. These days it is hotter.
Extremely hot.
So it's lots of fans, lots of televisions, lots of charging devices.
Yeah.
Lots of electricity usage in general.
Yes. So how are you? You turn off the lights and the fan when you're not in the room. The other day, I heard somebody from the electricity company saying that they recognize people were complaining that their bills are higher, and they recognize that it is hotter. So, but it has been really windy for most days over the last month. So it might mean instead of turning on the fan, you go out on the veranda and enjoy the breeze. You know, that kind of way. You have to be mindful that we are in different times, and we really have to cut back. So you have to make a concerted effort to reduce that utility bill. So trying to conserve, understanding what pulls a lot of electricity, you know, not opening the fridge a lot, or keeping it open for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Not using a lot of the the stuff in your house that pulls a lot of electricity. So it's, you know, it's the same things that we have been talking about, only now we're forced to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Not ironing one piece at a time, but putting all the ironing together. In fact, if you're not going to work, you probably don't even need to iron, you know?
Valid point.
You understand?
So yeah, and that's one of the things I read is actually really good to curtail on your electricity bill. Do things more in bulk. So let's say you wash a small load every week. Just wait until you have a big enough load and do that once.
Right.
Or the same thing with ironing, because then that's just one pull of electricity versus every single week.
Exactly. Hanging clothes on the line instead of using the dryer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
With respect to water, you could. Some people, I see people. Actually, I see my neighbor watering her plants with water from out of her kitchen. You know, instead of just throwing that down the drain, you're using, you know, you're utilizing water, reusing it.
Yeah.
And also find out if any of the utility providers are providing some relief. Electricity, water, you know.
And I think that is part of their consideration. They're also saying that they won't be disconnecting, right?
They won't be disconnecting during this 3-month
But that
period.
brings me to one of my primary questions before we run out of time. There are some reliefs that are being built into this time. You know, we know from the banks, and I want to get into that one.
Yes.
But even with utility companies, so you may not be disconnected, so people may be tempted to not pay the bill.
You have to pay it.
And it's the same that will happen with all the relief efforts that you're getting, you know, not pay your loan, not pay your credit card, not pay whatever else that is owed. What are your thoughts on this as to how to do this responsibly? Let's say I can't. I could only pay, you know, rent and water. That's all I can actually afford. What are your thoughts on how to manage situations like these?
Well, first of all, let's deal with the utility first. Speak with the provider so that you know exactly what they're providing and what the implications for you are going to be down the road. I know I think it is for water, they're going to cut the bill, right? I'm not sure for electricity. I think you'll still have to pay. So if you know that, you know that you will still have to pay, and you know that they will not cut your light out during this period. That gives you the kind of incentive to reduce that bill as much as possible, because down the road you're going to have to pay it. So put measures in place, get everybody together so that they understand what is happening and reduce that bill, because you're going to have to pay it down the road.
So even if you don't pay it, that's the thing you want to think of. You don't want to leave it to balloon that you have this major payment later on, whenever that will be. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. And now
Trying times. Yeah.
Let's talk about those bank reliefs as to what's the advisable way to handle that. Some people can still make the payments. Should you make it?
Of course. If you can make your payment, make it. Understand the difference between waiver and deferment. Right? If they're going to defer, that means that you're going to pay it down the road. You might have to pay more or for a longer period. So you understand what is being offered. If it's going to be waived, no financial institution can waive forever. So you will still have to pick up your responsibility as well. So consider it seriously. If you can pay your bill with your creditor, you go ahead and pay it.
So that's the general. And if I am on half salary and I really have to pick and choose what I can pay, what's your advice as to what are the things that would be the most financially smart for me to not pay right now and deal with later?
So for each person, it's going to be different, right? You speak with your lender to see what leeway you have. As normal thing is you pay the bill that has the highest interest, because that is going to accumulate more. So, you know, it's going to be different for different people. I think for credit card, they are waiving some credit card companies are waiving the late fee. So you need to look on all of that and see what combination will serve you better in the long run, for the current and also for the long run. So makes sense to write things down, write down the situation to see where you are, so that you could make an educated decision about what will work best for you. Recognizing that it is so uncertain, everything is uncertain. You really don't know how long this is going to last. You don't know the level of salary, as you mentioned earlier. You don't know how long you will be getting a salary or getting a reduced salary, or at what point you won't be getting a salary at all.
Yeah. And so if I'm pinching between what I can pay, you're saying look for those that will cost me more if I don't pay. So the ones that have penalties built in.
Yes.
And if I have a choice between my loan payment, my mortgage payment, and my credit card, which one should I be paying? Or my car loan? I don't know. Yeah. Some people are still, because it started in March, we're still paying the Christmas loans.
Yeah. Again, speak with your lender. See what is available, what relief they will give, and you put it down on paper to see what you can afford, and pay what you can. Okay. Anything that will cost you more, you want to try to pay that off. Those that have more leeway built in them, that won't cost you more down the road, then you could consider not paying those. But anything that will cost you more, if you have the resources, you contribute toward those. But the important thing is to speak with the people that you've borrowed money from. Or people who have funded any asset that you have. It's very important. And I know it's difficult to even go out, but you have to work the phone, you have to be patient, and you really have to have a conversation with your creditors.
And see what they can allow for.
See what they can allow, yes. And then you internalize it, you write it down, you see where it would put you. You figure out what would be important for you to pay now, what you won't be able to afford now, and keep the conversation open with them.
What about accessing these fast loans, these quick cash loans? It seems, when you drive around, those are the places that always have long lines, because people are just trying to get fast money. What's your advice?
Well, we've always said that fast money has a high interest on it, and some people probably have not realized how important it is to sacrifice. So you have to really look on what you're doing with respect to that, because nobody's going to lend you money and don't expect to get it back. They will want back their money. So you have to make sure that you're in a position to pay it back within the guidelines that you've agreed on, and that you're not overextending yourself. Sacrifice. We have to sacrifice. These are not ordinary times. We have to sacrifice, and if it means not eating the way you used to eat before, then seriously consider that. Sacrifice. We have to sacrifice.
That's what's the most concerning thing for you? I mean, you know very well the financial situation that people may find themselves in, and the tough choices. For some, it may be easier depending on how many dependents they have, and for some, it is.
Yes.
If you have a choice between buying groceries or paying rent, and there's been no relief on rent, that's one of the challenges I know people
true.
have.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. There's no relief on rent. So certainly, buying food is important. I think you asked what was my main concern. I think that is the main concern for many people, that regular people won't have the resources to buy food to maintain themselves. With respect to rent, you speak to your landlord. People have a heart during these times. Speak to your landlord early, but put your budget together so that you could realistically make a determination as to how much you can pay, and have an honest and heart-to-heart conversation with your landlord. That's the only thing you can do. these people, they have their expenses as well.
Yeah, some of them are relying on
That's what
that
makes it
rent as their income.
Yes,
Exactly. That's
yes.
what makes it difficult.
That makes it difficult. So we really have to converse with each other, and we have to have empathy for each other. We have to help each other as much as possible, because sometimes just a small gesture from a person can go such a long way for somebody who is in need. So we really have to look within ourselves and help out each other as well. In communities, let me tell you, there's always somebody who has it worse than you do. There's always somebody who has it worse than you do. So we could come together and we could assist each other as much as possible. And at the same time, we really need to focus on sacrificing so that the resources that we have, we'll be able to make it last for as long as possible.
I hear you very clearly on that, and I think that's perhaps part of the mindset that we all have to adapt. If things are financially hard, it's not about trying to make whatever money you make give you the lifestyle you've been used to. It's about changing your lifestyle to suit what you're making, and even less, because we don't know long term what's going to happen.
That's right. Very uncertain.
Yeah.
Very uncertain. The thing is, tourism drives a lot of our economy, and it is not, when we get through this, it's not that everybody's going to pack their bags and come back. It's going to take a while.
They themselves have to rebound as well.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
During this time too, people could start to. They say necessity is the mother of invention. Some people probably will need to start to think, how will I do things differently? What skills do I have that I could start to work on right now that will help me in the future?
I know we've seen some people get the sewing machines out and they're making masks. That's an entrepreneurial business right now.
Yes. We really have to look deep within ourselves and pull out those skills that we have so that we could help ourselves. At the end of the day, I would say we are responsible for ourselves, all of us, each of us. We are responsible for ourselves. So we know that the assistance is available, around and about, but we also need to put some effort into making sure that we could help ourselves as well.
And recovering after 1 month of lost income, some people are just going back to work, and they were furloughed, so they didn't receive any payment, and maybe won't for 2 more weeks. How do you manage that first paycheck coming in? You don't want to blow it. You have all that you owe. No, but I mean, you have a month and a half worth of bills to pay, and you still have to pay for what's ahead. What's your advice there?
Again, that budget, Marlene, you write things down. What are the important things for you, and how are you going to portion out this money so that you use it as best as possible? Writing things down is very important. Look to see what you're going to get and what your expenses are going to be. What are your commitments? Writing it down and making the decision based on a level head. Putting the reality on paper will help you to focus a bit more on what should be what you should be spending your money on.
Now you said in the beginning, and I want to get that back out again, that even when it's tight, we got to put something aside. How do we do that? If somebody is on financial assistance or half pay or quarter pay,
Some people won't be able to do it.
Okay.
And some people won't be able to do it because it is just too tough. The resources that you have is hardly sufficient to meet your basic needs right now. So some people will not be able to do it. But you have some people who will be able to do it. And I think we should use this period for us to really look on how we've been living our lives with respect to our finances, and this should help us to make some changes, for the future as we go forward. We have no control over what is happening right now for the most part. Have no control. Getting a raise isn't, even if you work, even if you're one of the best workers, if your company has to close, it has to close. If your company can't pay you, they just can't pay you. So
it is what it is.
you know, it is what it is. You have no control. But when it is over, we want to be able to use the lessons that we have learned so that if anything happens again, we're in a better position.
Yeah.
Well, it's a learning experience for all of us as it is.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time for our generation, or for many, that they're actually experiencing something like this where financially you need to be more prudent in the way you spend the little you have, the resources at hand.
Yeah. Yep. So we use the lessons that we've learned over this period to be able to do better when things improve.
Any final advice, Corrine, to people who, you know, money talk just is more depressing to them right now?
Yeah. This too shall pass. We'll get over this. It's going to be a long struggle, a hard struggle. We don't know for how long, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. It will pass, and we have to learn the lessons that it is teaching us.
I appreciate your optimism.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing these tips with us. Write down that budget and cut down everywhere that you can, from the food bill to the water bill to the electricity bill. Cut down as much as possible. It's not just about finding the money to live your lifestyle. It's about reducing the cost of your lifestyle.
Yes, adjusting. Yeah.
All right. So we are in MAGA season mode continuously.
I tell you.
Thank you so much, Corrine. We know it's a tough topic at this time, but we knew you'd be able to offer us some good advice.
I hope it was helpful to at least a handful of people, you know, that they could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they will understand the importance of planning even during this difficult time.
Yeah. Thank you very much once
You're
again.
welcome. My pleasure.
All right. There you have it, a bit of how to manage your money even when things are tight. Some really important points coming out there. We hope you appreciated it. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and take a break and talk about learning lessons. We're going to be talking to a representative of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community about learning the lesson of COVID while they celebrate Ramadan. So please stay tuned.